Hi, my name is Stephanie and welcome back to another video on my channel. And today we have a more serious topic, maybe a bit more serious than I usually do, but it's an important topic. And as per the title of this video, you'll know that it is the Oxford Imposter Syndrome. What is it? Do you have it? Do I have it? Will you have it? Do more people have it? How do you deal with it? These are all types of questions that I will be trying to answer today from a former Oxford student perspective. Obviously, I'm not a mental health professional, so this is just my former Oxford student perspective on the matter of the Oxford Imposter Syndrome. So first of all, what is the Oxford Imposter Syndrome? Essentially, the explanation for it is actually quite simple. It boils down to having an overwhelming feeling about the historical and the current intellectual impact that Oxford has on literally every single field. And this overwhelming feeling sort of tends to pop up when you hit a rough patch during your studies, or you just have loads of stress, or you're struggling with that one essay. Because of its century-old reputation, it's so easy to just fall into that trap of thinking, do I really belong in this place? Which then creates a sense of doubt on your own abilities and also on how you got in, essentially making you feel like an imposter, so hence the imposter syndrome. What makes this whole thing worse for loads of people is that you are continuously surrounded with so many smart people at Oxford. The amount of smart people that I met at Oxford is absolutely insane. It's like nowhere else, honestly, and that can be a bit intimidating. On top of that, 40% of those people that are walking around and that are your peers have gone to these very well-known, established private schools. Essentially, sometimes the name of that private school just functions as sort of a proof of their abilities, which is not necessarily the truth, but I do see that happening around me sometimes. This makes some people feel even more like an imposter, like not only they're at Oxford, but they're all of a sudden in this circle where you have loads of kids who went to all of these private schools. And then the questions arise, such as, what am I doing here? Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Did I get in by mistake? Do I deserve to be here? So who actually struggles with this? And in all fairness, having spent time at Oxford, I honestly believe that every single person is struggling with this. It's not limited to just a certain group of people or just one person. I do think people experience this in various different levels and at various different stages during their degree, but there is no way that you're going to tell me that that is this one person that has never had a single thought in their mind in the realm of, well, am I really here? Am I really that smart? Because in essence, it is quite daunting to think of all the great things that have come out of Oxford and to then connect those things to yourself, because now you're there. On top of that, we all have these gorgeous libraries and portraits everywhere to remind us daily, if not hourly, of the intellectual impact that Oxford had and still has. So why would someone not have that particular thought during their studies? Before this turns into a massive analytical essay on a video, my key takeaway here is that every single student at one point during their Oxford degree will be confronted with this particular thought or anything related to it. I really do not believe otherwise. There is no student that's that cocky that will be like, oh no, I own this place, I belong here from the moment it just walked in. So essentially, you're not alone in having a little bit of imposter syndrome. But this also brings me back to my previous point and what's going to be my next, which is essentially that I do believe that is different levels of struggling with the imposter syndrome. So what do you do about it? Oxford is not the place that will ever make a mistake in admitting someone. It's such a tough process to get into Oxford. If you're an undergrad, like think back about the time when you were applying to all these unis and you had to do all of these extra things just for Oxford. Maybe you had to write an extra essay, you had to do a test, you had to get the marks, you had to do the interviews. On top of that, Oxford is quite a rich university, which means that they don't need students to go to them to gain money. So they're in this weird position where they have the luxury to decide who they want to have at their university. They don't need students. The students they admit are the students that they saw something in that has a potential greatness. So Oxford definitely did not make a mistake in admitting you. Furthermore, I've realized that Oxford does not expect every single student they admit to be the next Einstein, who did not go to Oxford, but we all know what Einstein is. They don't expect you to be the next Einstein. During the admissions process, they just saw potential in you to be great in your field, not the Einstein in your field. And I feel that sometimes as an Oxford student, we forget that. Also, we don't all end up getting PhDs, so the chances or the likelihood of us actually becoming the next Einstein are actually quite slim. So we won't all do great things in our field either, but we do spend time with those who end up doing so, and we do challenge them on their ideas during the tutes when we were still at one level. And essentially we are part of the ambience created to foster learning. So even if you don't become great in your field, you still contributed to things in your field. Maybe a bit less directly, but you still contributed. You challenge your professors with just sometimes rogue ideas you come up with. You write essay, dissertation. By challenging that one pair that ends up being great in their fields after years of research when they're like far into their 40s. And you're being challenged yourself. So essentially, it's a win-win situation. Oxford will not be disappointed with you if you do not become the next Einstein. Even if you look at just numbers, right? There is so many people doing an undergraduate degree at Oxford, and there's only a few students who actually opt in to do a master's degree. If you don't take that step to do a master's degree, you cannot move on into a PhD, which means that therefore loads of students actually do not end up becoming a great theoretical researcher in their fields who is going to be affiliated with the university for the rest of their lives. And Oxford knows this, so Oxford doesn't expect everybody to go that route. They do prepare you for that route, but Oxford doesn't expect you to all do that. I also definitely had a little bit of imposter syndrome, especially at the end, like the near end of my first term at Oxford. And it was mainly because of the pressure and all the things that I needed to do and accomplish, and I was trying to get ready for my next term, but I actually should not have worried about my next term because I was still in this one. But anyways, I just had a lot going on at that point. And essentially, I just taught myself what I just taught you. Not just to make me feel better, but also because I truly think that this is the truth. And looking back at it now, at my experience, I still believe it. I still think the same way. I still believe that this is the truth. We just cannot all be Einstein. It's just not the way it works, and that's okay. Fortunately, I personally never had it bad with the imposter syndrome, but I definitely bumped into students who struggled with it. And one thing that I learned about it is that talking helps. One of my peers, she opened up to me and spoke about essentially having imposter syndrome like struggles, and I told her that I did too. This is a bit later in my studies, and I explained to her my reasoning for why I thought it didn't make sense to have imposter syndrome, and she was actually very happy to hear that she was not the only one who had imposter syndrome like thoughts. And in essence, she was just happy to learn that she was not alone in it. And thinking about it more now, I do realize that this is not something that's just solely related to Oxford. It's probably a uni-wide thing, that you're getting into your dream uni, whichever uni that is, and then you will feel like, do I really belong here? Am I really that smart to get into this uni? It's not something that's just limited to Oxford. I just feel like it's a general thought with loads of things in life. When you feel like you aimed for something that you thought was maybe a little too high and you actually achieved it. And I do think that talking about it helps. So definitely, if you have struggles like imposter syndrome like struggles, talk about it with your friends, because they will tell you most likely that they have had the exact same thoughts. Either way, this is not a full fix if you struggle with it really hard, but it puts things a bit more in perspective, I feel. So hopefully it helps. So if you ever struggle with the thought of belonging, know that you belong, because you do, because otherwise you wouldn't be there in the first place. And if your thoughts actively impact you negatively, please reach out to the university counselling service, because they will be happy to help you in any way that they can. And they will be actual professionals, that in contrast to me, because I'm not a professional, just want to highlight that again. This is just my perspective as a former student. Either way, I'll drop some links down below that you can use to find additional resources if you need them. And honestly, you belong at Oxford if you got in. And thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, subscribe for more content. Bye.